There is a game that people often speak of with great reverence. It is lauded for being Games Workshop's best game. This game is Middle-earth Strategy Battles, and that is not what I am talking about today. There is a game made by GW that many do not know of, that has existed for a long time and has many iterations, but is relatively niche in the board gaming community. Perhaps that is it. This is not a tabletop game, but a board game. A board game that is very dividing on who likes and dislikes it. It is a game of adventure, of fun, of ups and downs, highs and lows. And most notably, it is a game of luck. The game in question is Talisman. Talisman is a massive board game that has been around since I ever picked up a mini, but one that has always had a special place in my heart, and one that I play to this day. It is gloriously unbalanced, and you are at the mercy of fate itself while playing this chaotic role-playing game. I will be speaking about the 4th edition of Talisman, now revised, as this is the one that I started with and still play. Talisman has been moved through manufacturers over recent years, with Games Workshop, Pegasus, Spiel, and now Hasbro laying claim to the Magical Quest board game. But if you open up the rulebook for the edition that I play, you will see the good old copyright of Games Workshop. And to my knowledge, up until the revised edition of 4th edition, this was a Games Workshop game. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I am wrong. Before we jump into the magical land of Talisman, a word from our sponsor. If you're watching this video, there's a decent chance that you like tabletop games and or board games, and we all know how expensive our hobby can get. Thankfully, there are more affordable options like today's sponsor, Secondhand Geek. Secondhand Geek is a website where you can buy and sell miniatures and games. It's a great place to find anything from Warhammer to Bolt Action to board games to hobby supplies and more. As many of you may already know, scouring eBay and other such places to find secondhand Warhammer is often like picking expensive bones out of a wasteland, and it's usually a big hassle and you barely get to save any money most of the time, if any at all. Secondhand Geek is a far superior option to finding used miniatures for your games, and also give you the easy opportunity to offload and sell whatever you aren't using. They have pre-orders going on right now for the latest releases, and run giveaways every month. Use my link to check them out for affordable Warhammer and other tabletop games. As always, this greatly supports the channel and lets me make more of these kinds of videos. Thanks again to Secondhand Geek for sponsoring this video. Now, back to Talisman. Imagine Dungeons and Dragons. Now imagine that as a board game. Now imagine in that board game that your goal is to destroy everyone else and achieve ultimate victory. Talisman is an RPG turned into a board game, where the role of Dungeon Master and imagination is replaced by cards and chance. Most spaces on the board will instruct you to draw a card, and then you consult this card to see what happens. This can range from a creature suddenly attacking you, to a kindly mage offering to teach you a spell, to a land-wide plague that affects all characters. In this manner, it is extremely volatile and each game will be different. This is great if you come in with the mindset that anything can happen, and that you are there for adventure and fun. This is not great, however, if you are there to win and play with strategy, for the whims of fate are cruel in Talisman, and your winning lead can be destroyed in an instant as you are turned into a toad, lose all your items and followers, and hop around in despair for 3 turns. While this turns many people away, it is the beauty of Talisman. The random nature and at times comical lack of balance of the game puts everyone on a relatively even playing field, and while there is strategy and playstyles, you are often simply playing the game as a personal D&D adventure. To begin your Talisman game, you select a character. My playgroup divvies up the character cards randomly, then we choose from our given pool. There are 14 characters in the base game, ranging from the wise monk, to the adventuring dwarf, to the brutish troll. Character stats revolve around strength and craft. Strength, of course, being physical might, and craft being mental or spiritual. Most characters must fight in battle with strength, but some, like the wizard, have the option to fight in psychic combat and use their craft. Craft also determines how many spells you can hold at a given time, and how many you can cast on your turn. When you defeat a creature, you take them as a trophy, and once the attack scores of these creatures equal 7 strength or craft, you trade them in to gain one of those respective stats. And in this way, you essentially level up. My playgroup has house ruled this to be more akin to a scaling RPG, where we have the amount of trophies needed to level up be equal to your strength and craft. This gets people started faster, but slows down significantly when they get powerful. The third stat is Fate, which you can use to reroll a dice roll by expending a fate. You must then replenish this fate if you wish to use it again. Along with the aforementioned spells, there are many objects and followers that can be found throughout Talisman, usually found from drawing out of the adventure deck. Some items can be purchased at the village in the base game, using gold that players find in the adventure deck or gain by gambling at the tavern. The goal in Talisman is to reach the center of the board where the crown of command lies. You then use this crown to cast the command spell and drain everyone's life until only you remain. To get to the crown, you must obtain a talisman and go through a series of trials. There are 3 regions of the board in the base game: the outer, inner, and middle region. The outer is generally where everyone starts and is relatively forgiving. It contains fields and plains, chapels and graveyards, and more. You can get to the inner region by one of 4 ways. Either roll a 6 at the tavern to be offered a ferry across the Storm River, defeat the Sentinel in battle, buy or find a raft, or buy or find an axe, then spend a turn in the forest chopping down trees to then make a raft. The inner region is not a huge jump from the outer, but it poses a few challenges and more brutal spaces. Now you face spaces where you can lose life, such as the desert or Black Night, along with spaces like the ruins that add 2 to the attack rolls of monsters. Importantly though, in this region you will find the Warlock's Cave, where you can accept a quest to receive a talisman as your reward. A talisman is needed to enter the Valley of Fire, which is where the Crown of Command lies. In the regular game, completing a quest or drawing one from the adventure deck are the only 2 ways you can get a talisman. Once you have received your powerful talisman, it is time to enter the middle region, but be wary, for you must be strong or wise to face its trials. First, you must get through the Portal of Power, and to do this you roll 2 dice and must roll under your strength or craft. You decide. If you roll over this stat, then you are barred entry and lose 1 point of said stat. If you succeed, you make it into the middle region and now move 1 space each turn. There is a route based on craft and one based on strength, each containing 3 trials. The first of each requires you to roll 3 dice and get equal to or lower than your strength or craft. If you roll higher, you are sent to a location depending on the difference of your rolls. This is generally the hardest to pass, and sometimes you simply roll triple 6s and get booted all the way back to the outer region. For strength, you must then dice with death, then fight a werewolf of strength 2d6. For craft, you must go through the vampire's tower and lose life depending on a dice roll, then fight d6 pit fiends of strength 4, which my playgroup has house ruled as strength 6. Once you have made it through all of these, you finally reach the Crown of Command and begin casting the command spell on your turn, if no one else is on the crown with you. If someone else is there, you must fight until only one remains. Once a character is on the crown, players no longer get new characters if they die. To cast the command spell, you simply roll a d6. On a 4+, everyone but you loses a life. Rinse and repeat until someone stops you or everyone else is dead and you emerge the grand victor. Generally, the base game takes anywhere from 2 to 6 hours and is played with 2 to 6 people. That is not all of Talisman, however, for this game has expansions, a lot of expansions. This is an image of a fully expanded Talisman board. For the corners, there are 4 expansions which I will go over, these being the City, the Dungeon, the Woodland, and the Highlands. Along with these corner expansions, there are smaller ones, such as the Reaper, the Harbinger, the Werewolf, the Lost Realms, and multiple more. There are even expansions that replace the base game board, which are the Dragon and Cataclysm expansions. These have gone in and out of print, making them hard to come by, and now that Talisman is in its 5th edition, it will likely be harder once again, but these add-ons make for a whole new game experience. Each of these, aside from a select few, add 4 to 6 new characters, meaning your repository of characters can grow exponentially fast. They also add more cards to the spell deck and adventure deck, which can swiftly become gigantic after adding a few expansions. The Reaper was my playgroup's first expansion, and is one we play with every time. The Reaper is an actual mini on the board, and when you roll a 1 for your move roll, you may move the Reaper after your turn is done. To move the Reaper, you roll a d6 just like a player, and if he lands on someone, that player must then roll on the chart. This can outright kill them, or if they get lucky, gain them a stat. Combined with the Dark Fate of the Woodland expansion, which lets you reroll another player's dice, the Reaper can be absolutely deadly. Speaking of the Woodland expansion, it is one of my favorites. This expansion sends you into the mystical and mysterious realm of the Evil Queen Mob. This is a place where the Fae rule and fate itself is written and rewritten, bringing about destiny and constant change. When entering the Woodland, you draw 3 paths and choose one. These paths will vary greatly, with some making your journey harder and ending with a battle against Queen Mob herself, and others allowing you to swiftly travel through the land. Generally, the harder paths will result in your character gaining a destiny if they successfully complete it. Destinies are powerful buffs to your character that generally give you increased stats, as well as a way to replenish dark or light fate. The Woodland itself is full of magical items, mystical events, intriguing places, and many creatures. Whether you are light or dark bound will determine the outcome of many of the cards in this area, which means the amount of light and dark fate you have will bring different journeys and could even be your demise. I like the Woodland because it is like a mini adventure within the overarching adventure that is Talisman, and trudging through the green glades trying to find your destiny can be very enticing and mythical. It can be very dangerous or very rewarding, with some cards granting you incredible bonuses, but others bringing the chance of instant death. There is even a card that requires you to replace your game ending with a secret alternative ending from your alternative ending deck. which grows with each expansion you acquire. We ensure only to include a few of the alternative ending cards in this random selection as to not completely break the game, but it has led to some fun moments, like when one of us reached the Crown of Command only to find the new ending gave the win to whoever could beat Queen Mob in battle, and so we all raced back to the woodland. Next we have the dungeon. The dungeon is a dark and evil place, but legends speak of great treasure at its end, guarded by the Lord of Darkness. The dungeon expansion brings about great challenges for any characters who wish to enter, but also great rewards for those who can survive. Within this expansion are some of the strongest creatures of the game, and the dungeon deck is full of nefarious monsters. There are many spaces that require you to draw multiple cards, which can result in you being attacked by a group of monsters. It is not for the faint of heart, but it is a great place to gain trophies and become stronger. It is also home to many magical items that will aid you on your quest. At the end of the dungeon is the Lord of Darkness, and with a strength and craft of 12, he is no easy foe to best. If you do defeat him, however, you may take your pick of an item from his treasure. This ranges from a clockwork owl that lets you move anywhere within your dice roll to the elixir of life that gives you the chance to avoid the loss of life whenever you are required to lose one. The dungeon is probably my second favorite expansion, especially because it comes with one of my favorite characters, the Gladiator, who is able to train any followers he gains so that they may fight beside him in battle. Thirdly, we have the city, a hustling and bustling region with narrow streets, shops full of wonder, and brigands in the shadows. The city is where one may go to spend or gain coin, and is a place of opportunity. When you enter, you draw a wanted poster, which you can trade in for gold later on. This can be as simple as gaining a wanted spirit card, then trading in the trophy of a spirit you slayed to get some gold. Of all the expansions, the city is the safest, yet there are still enemies to battle, and the busy streets mean you must go with the crowd and cannot turn around once you have entered. At the bottom of the city are the many shops. These range from potion sellers to weapon and armor smiths to menageries of magical animals and more. The items and followers bought at these stores can give your character a huge boost, but often cost a pretty penny. One must be wary of the law as well, for if they get unlucky and make the wrong decisions, they might end up in jail, where all one can do is roll and hope for a 5 or higher, unless they have money to bribe the guard. For the final corner of the board, we have the Highlands. This is a land of magic, treasure, and adventure. The mighty Eagle King guards this realm, protecting the enchanted stream that holds the magic of the land. The Highlands bring about grand exploration and peril alike, with spirits and animals roaming the land and many natural formations to explore. Even more, the legend of the Lost City rings in the ears of many adventurers for both its knowledge and treasure. This expansion is almost like a more forgiving version of the dungeon, with lots of opportunities to fight and discover loot, but far less extreme scenarios. It is wrought with natural peril as well, and one might be swept away by a landslide or flattened by a rolling boulder. Yet all this risk comes with the prospect of the many gemstones and treasures within the land. At the end of the Highlands, one will face the Eagle King. Within the Eyrie, the king battles with a strength and craft of 8, making him a formidable foe. If a character defeats him, they randomly draw a relic, which are powerful cards once used by the king himself. An example would be the mighty Dreadwing, who lets you roll 2 dice to move, and if you roll doubles, you may teleport to a space within the region. Those are the 4 corner expansions, but there are also expansions that change the main board. The Dragon expansion replaces the middle region, and you must face one of the 3 Dragon Lord to guard the Crown of Command, while also dealing with their wrath and many minions throughout the lands. The Cataclysm expansion provides a somewhat post-apocalyptic board that replaces the entire main board. This brings with it many relics of old, wandering denizens, and more powerful foes. There are also many small expansions, such as the aforementioned Reaper. There are also the Lost Realms, which adds a small space between the dungeon and the city that can be traversed at one's own risk. Other expansions that give you moving pieces like the Reaper are the Blood Moon and the Harbinger. More expansions that don't change the board itself and only add cards and characters are the Firelands, the Nether Realms, the Sacred Pool, and the Frostmarch. Overall, there are so many different ways to play Talisman that every game can look a little different if you want it to. If you couldn't already tell, this game has extreme ups and downs, and you can go from nearing victory to the bottom of the totem pole in a second, and vice versa. Let me give you some fun examples from the games me and my friends have played throughout the years. Perhaps the most insane comeback happened when my friend Jared was getting close to finishing the game, and my other friend Josh died. He respawned as the Troll, and by some miracle in only a dozen or so turns he got a talisman, successfully entered through the portal of power, and got to the Crown of Command where Jared now was. To defeat Jared, Josh needed to roll a 6 in combat and Jared needed to roll a 1. This happened 3 times in a row and Josh won the game. Another classic was that my friend Braden hadn't ever won a game. He has in recent years, but for something like 5 years he had never won. So he got the habit of taking 2 to 3 talismans with him when trying to enter the Valley of Fire. He did this because on multiple occasions he would have spells cast on him right before victory, such as Acquisition, which lets you take a player's items, or one which turns a player's items to wood, or another which sends your items a few spaces away from you. He has literally been 1 to 2 spaces away from the Valley of Fire, only for one of these spells to be cast, resulting in him needing to turn around and go find a new talisman, for you can only enter the Valley of Fire if you have a talisman. In more recent days, my friend Cole had to leave early and was playing the Leprechaun. He had a ton of money, in fact he had all the gold available in the game, and so offered this money to the next person to kill another character. This resulted in one of our friends going on a manhunt for my poor wife and slaughtering her character. One time, my friend Matt was on the Crown of Command, and one of us cast a spell that required him to complete a Warlock quest. You must complete a quest when it is given to you, and when you do, you are teleported to the Warlock's cave. So he ended up being teleported away from victory because he had to do this quest. We are now pretty sure this was against the rules, but we thought it was funny. Another occasion saw my friend Braden about to die, only for my wife to cast a spell that allowed him to immediately heal, thus saving him. He later picked up an item called Oberon's Bow, which lets you take life from characters who are multiple spaces away. This proved to be insanely overpowered in the middle region, as you could only move 1 space per turn, and because he had Dark Fate to spend on the bow, anyone behind him, such as myself, would just get sniped over and over until they died. My wife followed behind after I died, and Braden now threatened her with doom, but she assured him it would be a bad idea. Braden did not heed her call, and so she cast a spell that then killed him, taking back the lives she had given him earlier. Lastly, a very fun moment saw us missing a player, so we took out a phone and had ChatGPT play a character. This character would be named Castor and was the thief. The AI was hilarious to play with, and if you are ever down a player, I highly recommend this. I was winning for a time, and Castor suddenly became absolutely obsessed with me. He would be in an entire different region and say things like, "For my turn, I would like to steal Eli's talisman." He would end almost every sentence with, "Where is Eli?" And if something good ever happened to me, he would go on a tirade. Castor would actually almost win the game, but ultimately be defeated by me, which led to my victory, proving his concerns correct. He gave a whole death speech talking about his ancestors and that Castor would one day return. Overall, an awesome experience. Almost every game, there's a question of the rules, and we have house ruled quite a few interactions, like making it harder to teleport to the Crown of Command, adding strength to the Pit Fiends, and more. In my opinion, to get a good old-fashioned grudge match, it is almost better to play with the base game and maybe 1 or 2 expansions. My friends and I would always play Duel of the Fates whenever 2 or more people dueled on the Crown of Command, and it has always been epic. Overall, Talisman has always been and probably always will be my favorite board game. It is incredibly fun and full of adventure and variety every single time. Even if you aren't doing great, it is still fun to be going on your own adventure and not worry about what other people are doing. It is random and volatile, which only adds to the fun and always brings a plethora of groans and laughs to the table. If you have the chance, I highly recommend playing this game and encourage you to take off the desire to play competitively and just have fun. There is a new edition now, and I cannot speak to how good it is because I haven't played it, but it doesn't seem to be much different, so I imagine it is still great. It just doesn't have expansions quite yet. The revised edition can also be found on Steam, which comes with more expansions that don't exist for the physical game and is a much cheaper option to get into the game. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you will consider trying out Talisman, the magical quest game. If you've ever played this game and if you have any funny stories, please comment them below. I'd love to read them. Until next time, thanks for watching. I love you guys and good luck trying to find the Crown of Command.